Mary is here, and she had a nice meeting, I assume, with Dr. Ordonez and the Spanish-speaking club during the break. Before giving her the word, I'm going to give a little history of this club, which started with Mark Young. He was a board member. He thought that we should do something for the Spanish-speaking community regarding monetary reform. And he came up with the idea to have an anthology of articles to be published in Spanish, and to find some articles and have them translated. So Mark Young and started this project, and he had then Jesus Suaste Garizola doing the translating. I got involved a little bit as you know, trying to get the rights from the IMF and the Bank of England, which was just a whole interesting experience to get translation rights from them. But last October, or now a year and a half ago, we got out with this nice little book, Democratizar el Dinero, una traducción a la reforma del dinero soberano. Democratize money, an introduction to sovereign monetary reform. Once that book was out, and you can buy it for less than $20, and even there's a free PDF on the Alliance for Just Money website for that. We started a little bit of a informal network of Spanish-speaking people. The irony was that we started in English because some of us were interested in it and didn't speak Spanish. And then at a certain moment, it transitioned into a full Spanish mode. And we had also Dr. Ordonez giving his help to this. He just straight out said, you know, whatever you like me to do for this group, you can count on me. Now, more or less, the baton in this group went to Mary Sanderson, who moderated the breakout room during the lunch. And Mary Sanderson, to introduce her, she is active in the Alliance for Just Money. She is also active in Madison, Wisconsin, within a lot of groups. She has co-authored an interesting article with one of her friends that we have published at the Alliance. And Mary Sanderson will give us a little further update on what's going on with the Spanish group. Mary, go ahead.
Thanks, Hobart. I appreciate your telling about the book and how it started the group and how you were involved. And it's been fun and satisfying for me to take on a moderating role as you stepped back. I want to say about the anthology, several of this weekend's presenters' work is made available in the book to the Spanish-speaking public. It provides our little committee, this book provides our little committee with a strong reference for Spanish speakers who happen to get curious about money. We are now about 9 people from 4 continents. This is a little report and then a request. We're 9 people from 4 continents, but mostly Latin America. And we've had about 10 online meetings this first year. And honestly, our main work has been getting to know each other's strengths and goals and where we're at regarding money and, well, and regarding life. We are hugely grateful for the work and conversations represented here at AMI. They're a tremendous help to us in understanding, we're mostly not experts, and in learning to talk to the people around us about the money problem. So that has been actually the closest thing we have to focus this year, has been how to bring the money problem to our Spanish-speaking communities. And that's what we've agreed to report here today. In the conversations we have in our little meetings, it is quickly clear. We Latin Americans are daily living the consequences of 200 years consolidation of power by the privately controlled bank credit money system. Our conversations often come around to this. Money power of that accumulated bank credit time requires Latin American countries to continue to borrow way beyond our productivity. Mines are called development projects. We are told that mining for gold or lithium will pay our debt. But all we have seen is plunder and destruction. Example, the Pascualama gold mine, high in the Andes. In 1999, Chilean citizens went to the barricades just to stop the company's proposal to move the glaciers. After 12 years of documented destructive practices and 3 years in court, Pascualama was ordered to stop their mining operation there at the top. But the drilling continues. Dynamite is set off underneath the glaciers and dust is dispersed on top of them. Glaciers that have long provided water for fragile ecosystems and for thousands of people in the whole valley below, all the way to the sea. Chile really never had a chance to say no to this destructive project, and it's emblematic of what is going on all over. Well, we know something about Latin America, but we think all over the South. We hear stories about Africa too. Chile never had a chance to say no. The accumulated power of bank credit money sometimes chooses candidates and influences elections. Even when our leaders are legitimate, they're caught between the bribes and the threats to okay whatever development project comes along. Habitat defenders and their families, often indigenous, are regularly defamed and attacked. You may not know that killings like the Cáceres are not unusual. Over 200 assassinations of land and water defenders are reported every year. Toxic mining projects are so common that we in our group personally know threatened families. At least for Latin Americans on our committee, you can see privately controlled debt money or bank credit is not theory. It's physical and urgent. One member says, we cannot separate our larger society from the bank credit money system, constantly driving the reckless extraction and export of natural resources. We live here, he says, on the physical and moral edge where infinite debt assaults our finite planet. In fact, he says, austerity is so intense in my country that everyday people desperate for work can be contracted to dynamite the glaciers that feed their own aquifers. Our committee sees people's beautiful work for environmental justice, housing, soil and water protection. We see all that as often undermined by vaguely protesting the system without defining it. Because we see democratizing the money as a prerequisite for that important work, we aim to bring privately controlled bank money system into focus for people in our communities. Our committee is deeply grateful to the AMI for these annual conferences. Conversations at this conference improve human chances for survival, in our view, and they open space to imagine possible futures other than dystopia. We have a request. There is something that published authors can do that will be a huge help to people in the streets and remote countryside who are working against all odds, even risking their lives to protect water and human decency from the assault of bank credit money. We really need the eldest and bravest among you to come out more directly and in more plain language against bank credit. Money that is issued debt-free and protected by representative or accountable governments, what we call just money in the United States, that kind of money is urgently needed. Money that pays debt instead of increasing it. We understand this request is not a small thing. Getting so close to the flame is risky for a professional, but a sane money system will benefit the grandchildren of even the most powerful people on earth. And we think increasingly they must know it. Respectfully, we ask you to consider how big of a help your coming out against bank credit could be. I have 4 little points. First, prestigious academics' plain endorsement of debt-free money creation would inspire popular study and critique of the current dead-end system. Just that public attention would immediately amplify the work that we are all doing. Equally important, it would provide one sound demand for many environmental and social justice causes. When we focus on fixing the specific money creation system, we can skip the divisive trap of blaming this or that vague political system. This common demand to replace debt money with just money, or replace bank credit with just money, could also provide a point of unity for activists in their silos, currently forced to compete for bank credit. Plus bonus, it would set off fireworks in people's imaginations for possible beautiful futures. Thank you very much.
Is any thoughts? I hear the request. Before we get on to that, how was the interview, Mary, for people, and how was it for you all to be able to have a personal conversation in Spanish with Ordonez, and what were the questions like and thoughts there too? And then we'll go on to a larger set of questions too. I think you guys covered some of this territory and some thinking in this too.
Well, his remarks with us were essentially the same that he so clearly portrayed in his talk in English this morning. He repeated the need to help banks to survive and compete in the new environment when the money is controlled by nations, by central banks. That there should be no, special protections for banks. And yeah, he repeated in Spanish for this small group most of his same themes from the morning. I can't tell you something unique that he added.
Okay. And any thoughts about the common person and how do we, I'm an educator. I think I may have told this story. I taught the stock, I was told to teach finance to in elementary school and middle school. And after I was starting to teach the stock market game and competition and how to buy on margin and everything else, I found the greediness. I was teaching greediness at some point, and it became all too obvious. So I stopped, and the principal okayed that I could give them lectures about money and society. And we started back at pre-Babylon with like Michael Hudson's thinking about early money. And after 38 lectures, I got to speak 5 minutes and then answer questions. That was the deal I had with my students. I only needed. And then after about 38 lectures, we were up to the Federal Reserve. And it was, but I noticed though, what we need is education of our young people. What is the civic education do we need at kindergarten, at second grade, at fifth grade, at seventh grade, and onwards, so that people understand money in society. And it's our money system. It's our money system. We have to protect it. We have to make sure it works for everybody.
That's a great question.
Yeah, and in part of that, I think we might be able to use some of his talk to ask the educators that question. We need to come up with the curriculum. And so there's some interested in Europe in doing this, in Belgium, in Denmark, and we need to get this into the Americas too. So
Stephen, do you see that Jeff Eater's hand is up? Thank you very much for that talk about building curriculum. I wholeheartedly agree. Oh, another job on our list.
Okay. Jeff, go ahead, please.
Hi, Mary. Good talk. I'm sure that everybody here, and especially you've probably read The Shock Doctrine by Naomi Klein. And of course, Noam Chomsky has done a lot of extensive work with regard to banking and control in Central America. So yeah, well, that's definitely part of the educational process. But again, I want to keep sort of pounding this point about empowering people so that we could actually form some kind of influence on how the central bank distributes that money. So I don't think that I have heard enough about that. So, and I actually I went golfing, so I was away for a while. But anyways, I got Joe to send a message to Miguel because I would like to know his opinion about the PMC policy, which again translates to everything. Alliance for Just Money, American Monetary Institute, our goals are directly parallel. So I was wondering if you could comment on that.
The PN, you sent the message to Miguel. I'm sorry.
Progressive Money Canada proposal.
Oh, right. Well, what I've heard from you about Progressive Money Canada, I understand that it is very similar to what Miguel is proposing.
Mm-hmm.
And just recently, this is sideline. Recently, I've understood how Canada is a little closer by that fact that that your central bank is actually allowed to get money directly from your government. That's a big deal. And that's more like the CBDC that he suggests, I think. In the United States, it's so much harder because our central bank is not even owned by the government and it's so forth. Yeah. But I'm not sure that's where you were going with this question.
No, it wasn't, but but still it was it's good to talk about that, about the differences between the Bank of Canada and the Fed, because basically the only thing is it's a matter of law. And there's one section in the Federal Reserve Act, it's 14B, which is something that was in Garbade. It's actually Sue Peters forwarded me the document about Garbade, who worked for the Federal Reserve for a long time. And they did it several times in the course of history where they actually did buy directly from the federal government or created money for the federal government. So, and the only reason they stopped doing it is because of corporate interests in the banking system, because they didn't get their cut. And it's all in that paper by Garbade. But it's a very simple step. And in Canada, right now, we're already halfway there. Basically, we wouldn't have to even change the law right now. All we'd have to have is a mandate from Parliament to be able to empower the Bank of Canada to do that more, like just roll over the debt. And of course, when you borrow from yourself, it's not the same as borrowing from, say, a bank or something like that. It's really is kind of a simple thing. But again, we want power to be able to distribute that money the way we see fit as a public.
Back to Stephen's comments about a curriculum And developing a curriculum, Jeff, I have to say you are very clear. The language on your website is very clear and helpful to others who are learning to talk about it. You might easily be a person who wants to contribute to how to talk about it, like Stephen says, for the second graders, the fifth graders, the eighth graders, something to do. I see Oscar's hand is up.
Thank you, Mary. I have hearing what you said. You're worried about the education of children, of young people. I am really worried by the education of people, leaders, very high leaders in Latin America with good intentions, but their ignorance is really big about the monetary system. Here, where I live, I can see good intentions, but absolutely monetary ignorance, and the thoughts they have are quite liberal thinking, way of thinking, even when they are worried about the people, but they believe the money is really as liquid. You have 1 liter and you have to take from here to there, and no, you cannot create money. That at the level of presidencies in Latin America. It's what I'm worried. Thank you.
I share that concern. Thank you too. I'm seeing Will Decker's comment in the chat about if we're thinking about education, we need to start writing hip hop lyrics.
I think actually that yesterday, Harrison Schultz at the New York Fed had a musical protest event. I haven't been on Facebook, where he probably has posted something about that, but yeah, there are some people in the movement using music and lyrics to promote our cause. Of course, we got Howard, our own monetary reform troubadour, who was doing that. So yeah, Will, that's I know you're close to Harrison, and I know you're in Oklahoma, so you didn't attend probably in New York City. But yeah, point taken there.
Tabitha, please say what you said.
I actually have recently came up with a proposal of socially conscious rappers, a list of them that I think would be open to hearing and carrying our monetary reform message.
Wow. How did you happen to do that?
Music is a love of mine, all different genres. I grew up in the 90s, 80s and 90s, so rap music is very important in my musical repertoire. And I have probably at least 5 or 6 rappers that I think would be very open to hearing our messaging.
Very cool. I had not heard that before. I hope that we'll pursue that.
Well, I hope that there's support for it, because I would be more than willing to jump into that.
Very good. I don't know if anybody has any more questions about the little Spanish speaking group. If you know anybody who is a Spanish speaker and is starting to be curious about money, do please send them our way.
Mary, this is Lucille, and I would just, we have 1 more minute, seems like we do. The request that came in at the end was powerful and clear. And Yet, did your group have any more specific suggestions on how to put that into action in terms of where it should be published, you know, in their context, where they are? I mean, how can we make that request actionable for the renowned speakers among us or authors among us?
Thank you. I appreciate that question. We did not get specific about it. When we wrote it and included it in this report, the idea of that request, I think we would be happy just to have people going on record a little more clearly here at a place like AMI in their presentations. Some of today's speakers did more than I've heard in the past. And I'm happy and grateful about that. But in the things that they publish, their articles and in other forums where these published authors speak, it would be wonderful if they could be, well, no, I see what you're saying, Lucille. To have it heard by a wider audience is the challenge. And I'm going to be challenged by that
Right.
too.
So maybe that's just the next step, that we have to curate some clear, simple statements from the speakers. And secondly, their willingness to be contacted and be interviewed for 5 minutes, you know, whatever, on, you know, some radio show in Argentina, or, you know, for a newspaper in each of the towns where the members are located. And, you know, some action plan like that. So to curate the statements, to get the permission that they will speak when asked, and they can be quoted, and then to start that asking process.
Lucille, that's wonderful. That's beautiful. You take an idea and make it concrete. Thank you.
All right, let's do it.
Mary and Lucille, I'd like to seg into our next speaker.
If this video is helpful, please hit the like button, subscribe for new video notifications. Please consider donating at monetary.org/donate. Don't forget to check us out on Twitter at AMI Monetary, or on our website,